Welcome to episode 4 of the Hump Day Huddle with me, Ryan Hopper, and my wonderful co-host, Joseph Duffey. Joe, before we get to the Horns result in the swamp, how are you doing personally?
I'm doing good. Sure wish these Longhorns looked better in the swamp, but it was a good weekend nonetheless. Very busy for myself. I know it's busy for you with the job as well, but you said you're so back before this call started, and glad to see the Hop bouncing back and in full force.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, I'm not working weekends except for planning ahead. I'm not working weekends yet. I know that will be on the horizon. Joe, meanwhile, check out his work if yeah, you're somehow a Syracuse fan listening to this. 247 Sports, right, Joe?
Yes, indeed. 247, Syracuse and 247. You can follow on that account. It's led by Mike McAllister. Mike McAllister's been doing that for quite a while. But yeah, man, these Blue Jays fans are going crazy as I see in the corner of my eyes. Another Vladdy Guerrero home run. But yeah,
Wow.
24/7 Sports for Cuse Nation. Cover the football team for now. I hope to cover the basketball team as well. But balancing that and also following the Longhorns is no easy task. Such different teams, such different histories. But I'm enjoying it for sure for 24/7.
Absolutely. And now to what this podcast is, Texas football. As all of you undoubtedly saw, the final score ended 29-21 in favor of the Florida Gators. Big win for Billy Napier and that program to get up off the mat just as he did last year when he was on not just the hot seat, probably a seat made of lava. Don't know how he withstood that. And I don't know if you saw the meme, Joe, that one of the toughest things to do in college football is to beat a Billy Napier team when he's on the hot seat. And so that was a meme. It was like a team with Billy Napier in the hot seat. 0-4 UCLA, just tough situations, tough teams to beat. Anyway, 29-21, it finished in favor of the Gators. Joe, opening thoughts on this contest.
Well, I mean, we talked last week about Arch Manning going to go into a very tough environment, the swamp, renowned for being, a raucous environment. We talked about how they have a really solid defense, the Florida Gators, a very underrated defense that they've had to lean on with a very, underwhelming offensive performance so far in 25. What we did not expect at all was this Texas defense to play like they did in the swamp this past Saturday. Did not expect that. I don't think either one of us even hinted at that possibility. I mean, we both thought that this team can lean on this defense, and especially a game like this in a crazy environment like it is in Gainesville, Florida. And yet, I mean, this is definitely by far the worst performance defensively for the Texas Longhorns in 2025. And so you look at this game, and it's like DJ Lagway was dicing this team up, dicing Pete Kwiatkowski's defense up like it
He
was
was.
nothing. The run game for Florida, which, I didn't think was going to come out like this. I mean, Jaden Ball, what a game. I mean, you saw what he did, 27 carries, 170 yards and a touchdown. I mean, I would say the run game is possibly this Texas defense's weakness so far this year, even though they haven't gone against a crazy amount of talented run offenses, but it showed in this game for sure, and it was exposed. And this run D has work to do. The D line was kind of getting pushed around, the front seven was getting pushed around, but some of these plays where Dallas Wilson was escaping on the secondary,
Oh my.
um, my goodness. I
Mm.
mean, absolute masterclass in the pass game for the Florida Gators. Couldn't find a way to take down DJ Lago. We talked about getting home last week, finding a way to take him down, and they just couldn't do it when it mattered the most. So this defense was the story for me. Also, the offensive line, and people can blame
Oh
Arch
man.
Manning. They can blame Arch Manning
Oh,
all they want. I mean, you play behind that line, right? You play behind what we saw Connor Stroh doing, former Frisco Wakeland Wolverine, Connor Stroh. But yeah, I mean, you try to play behind what that offensive line was doing in front of Arch Manning and see how you fare, because that was just an embarrassing effort on
oh
offense
yeah.
by that offensive line. Um,
All-time quarterbacks have been undone by poor O-line play, especially which Arch fell victim to this. And Brady has talked about this. Mahomes have talked about this. Each have lost Super Bowls partly due to shoddy O-line play. If the D tackles are getting pressure on your inside three, So your center and your two guards, that does not bode well. You'd rather not any pressure, but if you'd rather pressure be somewhere, it would be on either side to where you can roll out, especially because Arch is mobile, or you can step up into the pocket as it collapses around you. If you have pressure right in your face, your escape plan and your plans to try to keep your head downfield, which to his credit, Arch did once or twice and took a shot and delivered a football. It's a lot harder for a quarterback at any level, much less for a guy who, again, Joe, less than a season of experience playing against legit college football players. The only legit games he was playing before this, we've seen the tapes, 2A private school ball in Louisiana, and frankly, it was pretty terrible. Not his play, but his level of competition. So, and I think the real theme of this game is yes, the Gators were able to run for 160 yards in total, Baugh making up 107 of them. But you know what that does? That makes it easy on your young quarterback. Billy Napier, this Florida staff, the rest of this Florida team made it to where it was in third and manageable for DJ Lagway, who is very talented. I would say more talented than Arch, only a sophomore. Remember, Arch got stuck 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, because on offense, Texas couldn't really run the football, which, yes, they're playing a good defense, but that's a concern. I mean, what will the Aggies front, which is probably better than Florida's due to this team?
I mean, look what that also does. A great run game from Jaden Ball, but also those short yardage plays and those long drawn out drives. They dominated time of possession.
Yes.
34 to 25. That is huge for a team that is struggling. And when you're going against a team that was top 10, as we thought in the Texas Longhorns, if you win time of possession, that is a massive victory. Also, they won the penalty battle 7 to 10. The
Mm.
Longhorns had 10 penalties, another
Can't do
killer.
that on the road. Not in the
Absolutely
SEC.
cannot do that. I
No.
mean, we talked again last week. This is at Texas's first SEC game. They're the last team in the SEC to play their first conference game this late. And so in your fourth game, or excuse me, your fifth game here, going against Florida, this game we should have known. It had all the signs for a trap. We should have known. I just
It's a
couldn't believe
trap.
this
Admiral
first
Akbar from Star Wars. It's a trap.
that first half alone told the story. And I just knew that they were going to try this fake comeback stuff. If anybody knows me, I love to talk about the fake DFW comeback. This
Well,
performance
you're
reminded
used
me
to
of
that
the
with the Cowboys, aren't you,
yeah,
Joe?
it reminds me of the Dallas Cowboys. You're getting pounded over the first 3.5 quarters, and then in
Uh,
the last half of the fourth quarter, let's just decide to wake up and act like we have a chance right here. And then Arch Manning throws the pick at the very end of the game. So
you
it's
know what? You
like,
say that. They did, though. They did. They did have
yeah,
a chance. And
yeah, isn't that crazy?
because Napier gave them a gift
Yeah.
all time. Napier, good recruiter, by all accounts, good guy, good program builder. What is the main fault that is laid at Billy Napier's feet? He makes head scratching in game decisions. And the entire game, he and his staff had called a great game until they take a timeout to avoid a 10-second runoff down the
Weird.
stretch of the game to inexplicably give Texas a chance when they're up 8 points. That Joe and I were texting about this. That if they had somehow lost, or even if that game went to overtime, there would have been an absolute inquest into that. I mean, what are you thinking?
I mean, Gainesville might still be on fire if they
Yes.
lost that game. If they blew that game, it still might be in flames right now.
Yes.
Questionable coaching in the late stages by Billy Napier, which makes me think like, you beat a top 10 team, but is there any confidence after this with your Florida Gator team?
Oh,
Is there
no, no,
any
no. There's more confidence than there was
than
after
last week
three
before?
losses.
But knowing that you almost blew it, it's like, I mean, I don't know. Is there confidence? You almost found a way to keep this team in the game. Is that credit to Florida or is that credit to Texas? I don't know.
I think it's
I
a bit
mean,
of both. I think because Texas did fight, and I think it is something to be said for. You can call it a fake comeback all you want, Joe. There's something to be said for not quitting. Now I understand that University of Texas, the pride and winning tradition of the University of Texas shouldn't be entrusted to the timid or the meek. I believe the phrase goes. Ideally we don't. Right? Is that correct? Ideally this
Yeah,
team doesn't have a bunch of quitters, but in this current NIL transfer portal era of college football, where it seems like there's less of a program and more of a how can I get me, myself, and I to the next level type of transactional attitude, sometimes teams quit. And for what it's worth, they didn't quit. They didn't quit on Sark, but it just wasn't good enough. And unlike the Ohio State game, this is more worrying than the Ohio State game. This is the worst game this team as a whole has played all year, even though I would say Arch played much better than he did in Columbus.
for sure. And speaking of Sark in Ohio State and Columbus, the shoe, I mean, this Steve Sarkisian quote after this game that really just had me just puzzled, head scratching, when he was saying, I mean, how many teams are there in college football? 136, take the other 135 and have them go play at Ohio State and at the Swamp and see how they do. This is what he said after in his Monday presser. And it sounds like, very defensive. And you get upset by a Florida Gator team that you really should have beaten by 10 plus points. Um, it's unbelievable that we're seeing a quote like that from a guy who's been to two straight, CFPs, was a game away from being in, the finals and the championship
And
matchup.
potentially a goal line stop away, which
It
I get
just,
it. He's not blocking and tackling out there, but there have been recurring themes. Remember the OU game 2 years ago? They couldn't get it in 4 tries from the two
yeah,
yard line.
yeah.
There's certain recurring themes with this.
The red zone struggles continue. And, I don't like that quote coming from a guy who has been so big on culture. I get
Yes.
what he's trying to say. I get what he's trying to say. His culture was questioned, after this upset loss. But this is not what you say, after you
No.
get beat by a 1-3 Florida Gators team. If you want to lose to a Florida Gators team that's, I don't know, 4-0 going into this year, maybe 3-1, maybe 500, okay, maybe you can like say, sometimes we didn't have it today, but the way they lost, the way they just
Yes.
found a way to lose against a team that had
Came
one win.
out flat. First drive, Florida with their script marched right down the field, and Texas with a supposed, offensive mastermind at head coach completely sputtered.
I mean, a team like this offensively in Florida that, look, I know South Florida is awesome, but they upset Florida in the swamp,
I
right?
know.
They've shown that they can beat a Florida team in the swamp. This offense of Florida has looked very bad this year. Just all around bad coaching matchup, bad coaching game
Yes.
for this Texas
And
staff.
and coming off a
They were
bye week. What are we doing, Joe?
they were
Coming off of a
outclassed.
bye week. Now, granted, not as big of an advantage as you may think because Florida also had a bye week, and Florida, part of why they were 1-3 and why I'm going to take a victory lap here. I called them perhaps the best 1-3 team ever, was that they had a ton of injuries for it being this early in the season. And Dallas Wilson, going to take another victory lap on that one,
You
had
called it
an
out?
incredible game. Incredible game. He proved that 10 catches for a buck 95 and 2 touchdowns in the spring game wasn't a fluke. He proved that everybody raving about him in camp practice, it wasn't a fluke. He comes back, makes his collegiate debut against, despite what this game showed, a very, very good secondary. And he was barbecuing people. That spin on the sideline, Joe, to
Oh my
stay in
Lord.
bounds, bad tackling effort. Bad tackling effort. I believe that was Jelani McDonald on that
Yeah.
tackling effort. Um,
Unfortunately, Michael
wow.
Taft couldn't get there either.
Mike,
Just
yeah, oh,
just embarrassing by the secondary. Yeah, again back to this defense, this was not what we were expecting. And again, it's about getting to third and manageable. When you get to that, anything can happen. Anything can
absolutely.
happen. And that ended up happening for Florida in their favor, winning the third down battle, 7 of 14 on third down compared to 3 of 11 for Texas. A lot of coaches will take that every day of the week. And when you win a third down battle, man, that's huge, especially in SEC ball. So
And I mean, and it's just hard against almost any team, especially in this conference on the road. You can't come out flat, go down 10-0. And then, you get to the early second quarter and much maligned defense, but credit where credit is due. Ty Anthony Smith makes a huge play on that punch out, and you begin to think, ooh, are things turning around? Just like if anybody watched the Commanders Chargers game, that big punch out by Quan Martin on Quentin Johnson, who that boy is awesome, but he's a walking turnover. That punch out completely changed the game. And you thought maybe Texas can get a foothold here, and they score. Manning to Weisner. They hit the big play to Livingstone. You're like, okay, here we go. Texas is in business. Wham. I want to say a 10 to 12 play drive ensuing from the Gators to make it 17-7 again and build it right back up to a 10-point buffer. That's a killer. You cannot have that. Not every point and every drive in football is created equal. And I think anybody who's watched the game long enough understands that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw it when, they got that touchdown to Ryan Wingo, which was a great ball, by the way. That was probably Arch's
That
best ball
was,
this season.
yes, that of his collegiate career, I would say.
And then they
Yes.
gave it right back again. I mean, it's unreal with this team. And, I can't believe what we saw this past Saturday. The run game was also non-existent.
He
And,
couldn't run between tackles.
yeah, Trey
And
Wisner got the
oh,
touchdown, but the run
Lord.
game, my goodness, offensive line just getting absolutely destroyed.
And Joe, this whole we're gonna jet sweep it to Ryan Niblett business,
It never works. I
no,
swear it
they got
never
to
works.
stop it. They got to stop it. I have not seen it work. I think I've seen it work like once last year. Because remember, the beginning of last year, they were so desperate because of the running back room injuries, they were having Niblett get traditional running back reps out of the backfield. Like
Yeah.
you don't have that problem this year. You have a stable of three or four backs. You don't need to be giving it to this like Costco brand Debo Samuel converted receiver. You don't need to do that.
I mean, these reverses, I swear it worked one time I can remember in the past like year, and I feel like it was the OU game, which we're gonna talk about shortly. Last
Oh
year
yeah,
with Wingo, we're saying, oh, this is a freshman receiver. He's the future. Arch Man is gonna be throwing at this guy next year. It popped off for like 50 or 60 yards last year against that OU defense,
it did.
for a nice gain. It's like, oh, Ryan Wingo, he is the future for sure. Hope he gets more involved in this freshman season. He'll be more involved for sure and be the clear number one. And it's not really even working that much this year with him or Niblet. I don't know, man. These trick plays just aren't fooling a lot of people. Some of these schemes, some of them are open, I will say, for Steve Sarkisian's playbook, and Arch missed a few of them, but some of them are
And,
also,
and Wingo as a passer missed, I believe it was Jack Entries for a walk-in touchdown.
yeah,
But I'm not going to get on him too much for that because that's
it's a
not his
receiver.
job. He's
Yeah,
a
it's not a job.
receiver.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they like Joe, they threw me a screen once in high school and I was supposed to throw it and we had practiced it during the week and I said, "Hey, you guys probably don't want me being the guy running down there to catch it. I might drop it. I'm not very fast. What if I
Oh,
threw
what are
it?"
you
No,
doing?
no. What if I threw it? And they were like, okay. And so we were practicing it. We were getting it down. The game happened. Man, I pump faked and ran. And Joe, that wasn't my job, man. That wasn't my job. Like a lot of now, and they said this on the broadcast, which I think was pertinent. They said Sark's really digging into his bag of tricks here, and really, that's a bad sign. And it is
Hmm.
because if you can't do the vanilla stuff, if you can't run between the tackles, you can't do a bunch of crazy stuff from the depths of the playbook all the time because no one's falling for it.
I mean, this is not the team that I thought they'd even try the trick stuff, honestly.
No.
The 1-3 Florida Gators, which again have a good defense. We're talking about offense against Florida defense. I mean, you want to keep these plays, I'd assume, for the tougher matchups you have going into Georgia, going to
Mm.
Sanford State, and playing against the Aggies at DKR eventually. I didn't think it was going to be this
The
game where you saw.
quietly undefeated Aggies who are, it makes me uncomfortable. They're not making a bunch of noise. They're not, you know, puffing their chests out, like pulling a like 6-2 Dallas Cowboys. This could be our year type of
Oh,
beat. They're
low
they're
blow.
they're no, but you know what I mean, Joe? They're not puffing their chests out yet. They've stayed reserved, and That worries me because usually when the chefs get puffed out in Texas, a disaster usually ensues.
Yeah, if you recall that Oklahoma State game, speaking of Mike Gundy, who just got let go like week and a
Mm,
half, 2 weeks ago, I remember when that team was number 6 in the nation, and people were starting to think, is this team finally back again? And then just wham, Taylor, I'm forgetting his last name right now, the Oklahoma State quarterback, Taylor something, but they upset Texas at Boone Pickens, and so we've seen this a lot from Texas in the
yeah.
past. But they've been so consistent these past 2 years. It's hard for me to judge them off that team in the Tom Herman era. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to get too big and too prideful because of the A&M. I do think that they recognize what happened last year. They were first in the SEC at one point for many weeks, and then just it fell
while
off, fell through
while
tracks.
complaining about Texas's schedule ad
Yeah,
nauseum,
ad
like there was
nauseam.
some kind of conspiracy.
Yeah, and then had an opportunity to go to the SEC championship, final game of
Game
the
at
year.
home,
Oh my
didn't
goodness,
score an offensive touchdown.
everything in their favor, and didn't get it done. So that game's gonna be interesting, but we gotta move on.
And we got to move on to OU. Just two quick things. And not trying to be pessimistic for the future, but these are troubling signs. I have here in my notes on one Florida drive in the third quarter, I wrote down Texas defense needs to try to limit UF to three here to keep it a two possession game. The next note down, Louis Riddick, who former NFL
Hmm.
player, former NFL personnel guy in front offices, very educated on the game of football. He was doing color for the game. You know what he said, Joe? He said, right now, the only thing stopping Florida's momentum on offense is themselves.
Hmm. Wow.
That is incredibly damning of a unit that you, I, and many other people called a top five unit in college football. By the way, Florida did settle for three that drive, but only because they got conservative and started running it once they were in field goal range. That made it 22-7. It was always going to be an uphill climb from there. And then, real quick, speaking of uphill climbs, Joe, they showed it at halftime of the broadcast. Take a guess. What was Steve Sarkisian's record trailing at halftime going into halftime on Saturday as Texas's coach?
How many total games?
11.
0 and
Now
11.
now it's 12. You say
Oh,
are you actually saying 0 and 11?
no, you said 12 now? Or
Now
at the
it's
time,
now
0 and
it's
11?
12. It was 11 at the time.
I'll give him some. How about two and 9? How about 2 and 9?
It's 2-9, Joe. His record trailing, and now it's 2-10. 2
Oh
and
my goodness.
10, Sarkisian is now when the Horns are trailing at halftime. I know there's only so much
Brutal.
you can do at halftime, but that has to be laid at the feet of the coach and his staff to an extent. I mean,
That's the anti Sean McVay, unfortunately. So yeah,
yeah.
it's the Sean McVay halftime record. But
Oh, and he is a go. So does Andy Reid. And,
yeah, I
and
mean,
and Andy Reid's teams, what are they great at? Coming off a bye, extra
I'm
time to prepare as a coach to make adjustments.
I mean, if you're just favored to lose a game, if you're not winning at half, I mean, my goodness, and not favored, I mean, but more likely to lose if you're just,
Yeah,
losing by even a hair at half. That is not a good sign.
no,
So yeah, not a good week at all for these Texas Longhorns, but there's a great opportunity to bounce back
yes,
in
there
this
is.
matchup. There is a great opportunity. And how funny it would be, how ironic that while people are almost on the verge of pushing the panic button on this season, they go into their most heated rival in Dallas, Texas, and could have fans hype right back, where they were 2 weeks ago on a bye. I think this team, even though John Mateer, who we'll talk about in just in a few moments, even though he more than likely will not play, we'll discuss this in the future. I still think it'll matter to this committee if this Texas team can beat OU.
Absolutely. And folks, as negative and pessimistic as I've been, because I'm just trying to call balls and strikes based on what I see. I am also going to try to square that circle with I'm not a homer. Like I'm proud graduate of the University of Texas, but I'm not being a homer when I say, Joe, there's actually still a path to the college football playoff for the Texas Longhorns in 2025.
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. There is still a path. This team did not do what, say, Penn State did and drop an absolute inexcusable stinker in the Rose Bowl, in the half-empty Rose Bowl because no one cares about UCLA football. You know, like this is different. This was at the Swamp, tough road environment for Arch Manning's first game. Let's be honest, folks. The skill position group is not what Quinn had. The offensive line, we knew this going into the season, not close to what Quinn had. He got four new starters on the offensive line. They haven't done a lot to help him, and he frankly might not be as talented. I mean, the path is still there. And if Mateer was fully healthy, maybe it wouldn't be because I couldn't in good conscience pick them if Mateer was fully healthy. But folks, John Mateer, Oklahoma transfer quarterback, had surgery on Wednesday, September 24th. And then they come out with a report today, I believe from ESPN, that John Mateer is pushing to play this weekend against Texas. I think that is bluster from an agent or from a coach or someone trying to set a smokescreen. Not a doctor, won't pretend to be a doctor, but surgery on your throwing hand. And then 3 weeks later, you're going to get thrown into perhaps the most intense rivalry game in the country. I'm not sure that OU would even take that risk.
I mean, I thought I heard Brent Venables also say that it was more than likely not going to happen, but they're just probably trying to keep Texas
On their
on their
toes.
heels, on their
Yeah.
toes. And Steve Sarkisian said a few days ago as well that they're preparing for John Mateer, which is kind of him firing back, saying, "Okay, we know you're trying to possibly play a game here, Brent Venables and OU. You're possibly playing a game. We'll respond. We'll respond in kind in a way." I think John Mateer is definitely not playing at all. I think 90% he is not playing. But for this team in Texas and offensively, you're playing another great defense in OU.
Better.
And oh, I mean,
Probably better.
years ago, Big 12 era, this was a game where you're about to get a shootout. You're getting minimum 40 points for either team, 35 points for sure. This matchup right here is probably going to be another defensive matchup that we saw similar to that 2 years ago, where OU kind of found a way with Dylan Gabriel to score at the last second in the back pylon. People
That
went
was a
nuts.
that was tough.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
That
As
was a
you know,
tough one.
as a fan of college football, I mean, that was one of the craziest moments in the history of the rivalry.
Cinema.
But
Oh
it
yeah.
was it was ridiculous to watch as a Texas Longhorn fan, as you were describing um, not scoring on the goal line, but also some silly turnovers from that offense from Texas that night, and the defense could not get a stop. So crazy things happen in this game. So even if John Mateer did not end up playing, I mean, it's not the end of the world for OU at all. Michael Hawkins last week, albeit not against a great team, still had three passing touchdowns, just a little bit over 150, I believe, passing yards, but
But
he got
it was
destroyed.
against Kent State,
Yeah,
which,
Kent State.
spoiler alert for people who don't know, that is not Kentucky State. That is Kent, as in the small town of Kent, Ohio State.
Yeah, yeah. I grew
Not
up thinking,
exactly, not exactly, a contender.
yeah, for sure. They did their job though. Got that shutout
Yes, they did.
In Norman. But Michael Hawkins, it was a rough one for him last year. If I can pull up these stats for just a second, and an Oklahoma fans can say what they want. I know
It was brutal.
they
That
had a
offense was anemic. I was in the stands third quarter, and this is not me during a football game, Joe. Third quarter, I'm having conversations about where we're going out that night. I'm having conversations just like shooting the stuff, hanging out. And the game was over. The game was over by the third quarter. And as I recall, the score was lopsided, but it
Mhm.
wasn't as lopsided as you might think based on how we
No.
were talking because we knew OU just couldn't move it. I want to say it was only 21-3,
Yeah,
which
and I mean, yeah,
commanding lead, but when the other team can't score, it feels a heck of a lot bigger.
yeah, they had a lot of guys out that game as well. And you look at that first quarter, especially. I'm telling you, with this Texas team, if they don't find a way to come out the gate swinging with OU, if you remember that first Texas drive last year where Quinn threw a pick, I believe, to Billy Bowman, I think, in the very back. They picked him off in that first drive. It went nuts. OU was leading, by the way, 3-0 after the
Yes,
first quarter. I
that's
mean,
right. That's right.
let this happen with this offense. Oh, you could run away with this game for sure. I don't think it's insane to say that they find a way to win with Michael Hawkins. But what we've seen from
No,
this
it's not.
yeah,
No.
from this arch offense, what we saw from this Texas defense, anything can happen. The Red River game is unpredictable. Texas found a way to score 21 in that second quarter last year, but they don't have Quinn Ewers, they don't have Matthew Golden anymore. Um, Much different offense for sure than that of last year. Anything can happen. I don't want Texas fans to think this is like a free game at all. This is gonna be an
Whoa,
awesome
whoa.
game.
Who thinks it's a free game, Joe?
I
I,
just
I mean,
I think it's just a Michael Hawkins
The
effect.
Texas fan at my work, shout out Chris Thomason, sports anchor, KIII TV, Corpus
We follow each
Christi,
other.
TV3, represent. Look, Chris comes into the office Monday morning, and he's like, and he UT graduate, he's like, Ryan, how the hell are we favored over OU? And I'm like, well, John Mateer. And we do, and you're acting like the Texas is going to get run off the field in talent. The talent's there. Texas arguably has more talent on defense. They just didn't execute last week. Arch Manning, much more talented than Hawkins, and just based on this number, the spread is moved from Texas favored by 2.5 to Texas favored by 1.5. Texas is still favored and the over-under has stayed consistent. This is per ESPN bet at 42.5. So what does that tell you? The wise guys who are smarter than most of us think it's going to be a very close game and they think it's going to be low scoring. And I feel like that's
Absolutely.
where Joe and I land on this game too.
For
This is going to
sure.
be a slugfest. And frankly, it could come down to kickers.
I think so for sure. It could definitely come down to kickers. And I'm not gonna lie, I love defensive football. I don't like too defensive football. I don't like the Patriots Rams Super Bowl a few years ago. But I like defensive football where it's not just willy-nilly touchdowns every few minutes, like Big 12 football that we grew up watching this past decade.
It was kind of
This
electric, though.
It was electric.
It was kind of
It was.
electric, like a 62-55 TCU win over Baylor. Like, come on.
How
Like
about
it was
Mahomes versus
electric.
OU? Mahomes
Versus
versus
Baker,
Baker
yeah.
combined 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards of offense. But yeah, I think this game will be awesome. Michael Hawkins, I don't know if he'll be better than he was last year. The guy didn't have many options to throw to because they had a lot of guys out in that game. Not trying to say that they couldn't compete anyways because they still have Oklahoma recruits. But yeah, I think Texas fans are banking on Michael Hawkins to show up like he did last year. And with that being said, I think this rightfully favors Texas.
Also, keep in mind, Hawkins has been put into games against, you know, East Middle of Nowhere State, Panera Bread, you know, the Arkansas School for the blind and impaired. And Joe, this year, he's 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Okay, he did that to Kent State. Joe, he's 15 for 27. That is 55.6% completion percentage, average of just 6.2 yards per attempt, along of 32 yards. And that was when he had demonstrably better skill position talent on the field. Now, are we going to call that talent a wash? I would say no. Probably Texas is better on defense than OU skill guys on offense, just like vice versa. I would say OU skill guys on defense are better than Texas is. This could be a slugfest. This could be first to 21 wins. Truly.
But also like, DJ Lagway wasn't off and running, due to that injury, still trying to recover. Wasn't off a lot, but also had solid protection. But like also considering the fact that Michael Hawkins was going against one of the better defenses for sure last year. And when he got on the outside, it was game over. Like if he escaped the pocket, they were taking him down almost immediately. Fumbled a few times last year. But, you look at this team this year, if he gets on the outside, are they going to take him down? I don't know. Can they? I mean, I know we have Colin Simmons, we have Anthony Hill. They're still great on the edge and up the middle, but if he goes against the secondary, if he's one-on-one against, Jelani McDonald, against a Michael Taft, are they taking him down? I don't know. If he can extend plays with his legs, I think OU can hang in this game for a long time. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just quickly, little preview on OU in the very limited time we have left. Biggest wide receiver threat may be Isaiah Centania. I hope I pronounced that right. Isaiah Centania, the third Arkansas transfer, got 359 so far on the year, 3 touchdowns on 26 catches. He's been their leading receiver. They have a very solid tight end. Dion Burks also on the outside, the senior receiver, guys to watch out for. But they are very run heavy. Torrey Blaylock out of Humble, Texas. I believe Humble, Atascocita. If I could be,
Oof.
if I'm wrong, Joe, great program, the Eagles. Um, I believe I called one of his games last year. Electric. They beat Westlake. Now, with under a minute to go, though, Joe, sorry we don't have a lot of time. Need a quick score prediction from you.
I'm going to go Texas walk-off field goal winner 25-22. Grind it out game.
25-22. Could be some SEC scoregami there. Um, I'm going to say nasty slugfest. 20-17. I would say Oklahoma, but I'm going to say Texas because things don't typically make sense in a rivalry game. Horns get the victory because Hawkins is playing and Mateer is playing. Completely different story. That is going to wrap it up for episode 4 of the Hump Day Huddle. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the Horns Illustrated YouTube channel. And we will see you guys next week after hopefully a Red River victory.